We asked you to send in your shots so that we could critique them gently, of course, so that you could learn from that. Now, we've been doing this forever. So when we are in the classroom, there's obviously multiple people there. And the goal, of course, you would think is to help the individual who sent that shot into us to be able to benefit from that critique. But what we found is that everybody else in that room gets to benefit also looking and hearing at the concepts that are being described about someone else's image and how they might apply those to their own. So here we are. Colm has sent in a couple of images to us and we're going to have a look at those. So here we have an image that is very simply what we've got to watch here for are horizon lines, and where the horizon is, sometimes that's where trees meet the ground, but in this case we actually have the horizon. So if we have a look here, you'll see that the horizon is going at a little bit of an angle. So the thing to do here is to, in the camera if you can, find a way to get that in the center. Now, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to show you in the camera as well, just how you can do that before you even take the shot as well. So you have to be mindful of all of these things. Now, the problem is, as we say in the States, trying to walk and chew gum at the same time can really be difficult. So when you're taking photographs, there's so much you've got to take on board, and it can really be tricky. So what we're looking for is to make sure that if you're using live view or if your viewfinder allows a grid to go up, call that grid up and look where those lines are. In this particular camera here, I have a center line, vertical and horizontal, and I have the thirds lines over at the thirds top, bottom, left and right as well. So I would use those as a starting point. So if we go back and have a look at the image itself, you'll see that what I'm doing is just lining up that horizon line as best I can. And that would then leave the image within the center frame itself. So that tends not to be terribly interesting in terms of composition, unless there's reflections, mirror reflections. That'll work all right. But here what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to crop using non-standard shapes. So we're not going to go for a 3:2 ratio, which is most cameras, or a 4:3 ratio, Micro Four Thirds and so on. I want to show you what I would do here. So when there's too much sky or a lot of sky and a lot of ground, the eye doesn't know where to look. So you have to decide, where do you want the eye to look? And if we take the view that we should be looking towards the foreground, then that's the shot we're looking for. If you're thinking that actually what I want to do is I want people to look to the sky because the sky is more interesting, well then this is what we would do. And again, put that horizon line. It doesn't have to be on the third. It can be close enough to it for that composition to work quite well. So in that case, that shot has worked really well. The focus has been off in the far distance, and that's allowed this vegetation at the shoreline to be blurred and to be extra blurred here, because what's going on there is that there's a wind blowing, quite a sharp wind blowing, and you can see from the white horses there that that's the case. Even though the shutter speed is 1/80th of a second, you would think that'd be enough. So it's a question of, are you trying to shoot through those? What are you trying to do? And we can't obviously be in the mind of the photographer when the shot's been taken, but our view would be that that's the shot you're looking for, whereas originally the shot would have had more. Now in fact we think probably the shot is here because we think the foreground probably has a lot more interest, and you're looking through the vegetation to see off into the far distance. So that's one that we would do. If we look at this other image here, one of the main things that came out to us, apart from, of course, once something is pointed out to you, you can't not see it anymore. So here we have the horizon line again. And the trick here to understand is that if there is something that is upright in that image, so upright in the image, what we mean is if there's a building of some sort, if there's a person walking, if there's a pole, they should be vertical. So if the horizon is at an angle, because maybe that dune is going down at an angle, you need to keep those uprights upright. But if there's no reference points, then something which is off a little can just look a little bit wonky. Now, something to bear in mind, and I will say this as we do our future critiques as well, is just to be mindful of this very simple trick that the eye plays on us. Something which is a little bit off looks wrong. Something which is very off looks weird, but we think, why do they do that? They must have done that deliberately. So just be watchful for that, that if there's something a little bit off, it just can look wrong in the image. If it's very off, then it's clear to people, or at least the assumption is that I've made the decision to make it look like that. Okay? So here we are basically back again on the image. So we also have another decision to make here. And we're fairly close to rule of thirds here. Okay? If I start moving the line up or down, you'll see that, that horizon line is kind of where it should be. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring that down because there's not a lot going on in the sky. And if we do this, we would make for the majority of the interest to be on the sand in the foreground. Now, one of the things I noticed here was that the sand here is a little bit blurred. Now, the aperture is 5.6, so that's going to give you a shallow depth of field, even at wide angle, which is 24 millimeters here. So just be watchful of that. I'll talk in future about how you can check that out beforehand. If there's a depth of field preview in your camera, you can actually see that potentially before you go ahead. But the problem can be that if it's a bright day and you're looking down at an angle on an LCD that's popped out, it can be a bit tricky to see. That's where the little loops, I showed one of those in a video when I have one of those in my bag. So you can go in and you can just see, almost pixel peeping to see if that works. So generally, as I would say, what we're looking at doing is we're looking at, where's the horizon? Does that need to be on the third top or down? Does it need to be near there or on there, depending on the image itself? And beyond that, there's not a lot to do. It is a case, I say, of you tend not to see these things because this is a little bit blurred and the sharpness comes in here. And if that's what you want, that's what you've got. But what I would suggest as one last little thing is that, see, when something looks a little bit blurred, it just looks a little bit wrong. So I'd maybe bring that up to where we've lost the blurriness through the depth of field. I can increase a little bit more up there. And then that gives us the shot, which I think is a very interesting shot. It gives us plenty of those lines going all the way in, a little bit of sky above. That's always a personal choice. You can put it in the middle if you want, but it really is down to your own choice. If I just keep coming back to that, composition is key. And where's the horizon line? Where do you want that to be? In the center, at the third, at the sixths, which is really right at the edge. That's for you to choose, but make sure that that's where you want it to be. Make sure it's level if that's what you want. Make sure it's at an extreme angle if that's what you want. If it's at a little bit in between, tends not to work. So I hope that helps. I certainly hope that helps Colin. If any of you else want to send in some images, just do so. Go onto our website. You'll see the click on the link in the homepage to be able to do that and send those images. Looking forward to getting them from you. Take care.